accordance to the methodology plan, announcements were placed via social media centers such as Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter. Potential volunteers were instructed to send a private message in order to be screened for the process. 12 volunteers were chosen. The interviews were done via Skype call after consent forms were sent and returned. Volunteers were given the opportunity to ask questions and voice any confusion or concern. This was not only available before or after, but also during. After understandable initial nervousness, the volunteers opened up rather quickly to share their experiences. The chosen volunteers aged between 17 and 33. Many of them had more than one companion, and each one served its own function, or a function within a function. And among those with many, there was always at least one that had a special significance or importance. The volunteers also varied in gender. 7 of them identified as female, 4 as male, and 1 as gender fluid. Of them, 3/4 identified as being religious to some degree, most identifying as Christian, Catholic, or agnostic, with about 1/4 being atheist. After reviewing the transcripts of the interviews, it was discovered that 7 of the 12 volunteers suffered from one or more of the acceptable conditions. 3 of those with conditions were diagnosed with autism. The majority primarily held diagnoses for anxiety and depression, with only 1 mentioning bipolar disorder. To review, the creative companions covered a broad range of aspects. There was the invisible friend. There was also personified objects, alter egos, or some type of persona. Also included were tulpas, parasocial friendships, such as fictional characters and real people alike, original characters, otherwise known as OCs, fictional characters, such as the self-taking of existing fictional characters, or creating of new ones for storytelling purposes, symbolic or personifications of specific feelings, concepts, and places, and puppets, such as hand puppets, marionettes, and ventriloquist figures. Obviously, the first concern to come to mind is the effect of these creative companions on those who have them in relation to self and the public. 2/3 of the volunteers experienced some form of negativity or stigma due to having their creative companions. This is regardless of the type of companion created. Interestingly enough, most volunteers identified themselves as writers in some capacity, be it through writing some sort of poetry or books, role-playing, or even fan fiction. Of all the volunteers, only 1 actively displayed an interest, knowledge, and utilization of the tulpa. Tulpas differ slightly from what one would perceive as an imaginary friend in the stereotypical sense, as tulpas are perceived to be in the plane of actual existence, even if not invisible. 3 volunteers admitted to having some type of persona. It was also common for volunteers to have different companions of different types. As an example, 1, whom we will call Frankie, had a persona of an anthropomorphic Dumbo rat, but she also partook of a parasocial relationship with a character from one of her favorite novels, the monster of whom she affectionately calls Adam from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. To clarify, she is well aware of this character's fictional status and simply enjoys exploring the depths of the character, both in and out of the story's context, to the point where she feels a very close friendship with said character. The most common trait among the volunteers was the creation of what started out as, or eventually evolved into, role-playing characters. These characters were placed into online role-playing communities via forums or social media for character experimentation and social development. As such, all volunteers with role-playing characters, including OCs, have admitted to seeing an increase in their social skills, as well as an increase in the number of people in their social circles. It should also be noted that the types of characters created and taken by the individuals not only serve to be just characters for play, but also a representation of things of importance. For some, it was a personal opinion of the perfect woman. For some, it was exploring fetishes. And others just wanted a metaphorical body or face in which to put concepts, phrases, and places. The results of the study seem to agree with the literary sources and expand on the insight of adolescents and adults with the companions and their uses. It's not a phenomenon specific to young children, as many may have thought. It is not only prevalent in adults and teenagers, but serve a great deal of positive purposes. There is a common theme among the volunteers for both purposeful and random forms of creative storytelling. As such, They develop their own imaginations as well as social skills when that creativity is applied to others in a community. Due to the types and uses of these creative companions, it's also safe to say that this is more common of an occurrence than people would want to believe. It's not limited to invisible friends, but a slew of creative characters manifested in these many different ways. Those ways seem to be relieving boredom, but not necessarily loneliness, but a form of entertainment. Companions are created for the specific purpose of exploration of ideas, storytelling, art, and joining a community, and therefore, it does encourage social skills. Specifically, the companions of the volunteers have managed to create and show improvements to varying degrees in relation to the social anxieties and awkwardness of their creators. The disorders considered also show that the companions are not a symptom of those conditions, but they are indeed a coping mechanism and a sort of treatment plan or therapy for those with them. The results show a positive level of self-treatment against the symptoms of the cause, rather than the companions themselves being manifestations of the cause, and thereby being in themselves the symptom. For example, the companions created serve to create a means for social interaction in some form, despite the volunteers' social anxieties. The companions have also allowed a form of joy in those with depression. The companions created have to put their creators in a place that was better off than the place that they were beforehand. All 12 volunteers have admitted to seeing improvements of some sort to their lives with the presence of their creative companions. They all take entertainment from their companions. Social skills have improved, new friendships were formed, and many developments arose such as empathy, patience, and the ability to see new perspectives, to name a few. There was also an improvement in creative thinking, writing skills, refreshing the usage of imagination and inspiration, and art skills. One could then probably safely assume that creative companions are common, a part of the human experience, regardless of age, serve a purpose or multiple purposes, and are an overall positive and welcome experience to those who have them. Now's the time for you to click on the annotation if you're not already in the playlist. Also, if you would like to start from the beginning, click on that annotation. It would be nice to watch these in order so you do not get lost.